Pluscarden, founded in 1200s.
Founded in 1230 by Alexander II for monks from Burgundy, Val des Choux. They were kind of a mixture between Carthusian and Cistercian spirituality, and there were 40 houses of them in French-speaking Europe, because France didn't really exist then, and 3 in Scotland, Pluscarden here, Beaulieu about an hour north of us, and then Ardchatten over on the west coast. And so there they were.
So it was doing well for a few hundred years, I imagine.
Well, all right. But of course, the trouble is the relationship between Scotland and France was very good, but the bit in between, the English, wasn't. So they were always either having wars with the French and the English, or wars with the Scots and the English, or both. So if you have to keep communication back with base, then that's not easy. And eventually they became Benedictine in 1454. But before that, they'd had, again, bad neighbours. The king's bastard brother, the Wolf of Badenoch, he had an argument with the local bishop, so he burnt Forres, which is 8 miles that way, and Elgin, which is 6 miles that way, and us because we're in between. So that had a bad effect, like Notre Dame being burnt in Paris. And the place has been, that's why it's the funny shape it is. The nave out the back doesn't exist, only the foundations do. Anyway, come the Reformation, well, in Scotland we didn't have the suppression of monasteries. That was Henry VIII down south. And the Reformation here was Calvinist rather than Lutheran, as in the south. So that monasteries as entities remained. So there's been a succession of lay proprietors, and apparently none of the monks was recorded as having gone off and become a minister or something. And 1560 the Mass became illegal in Scotland, but there were still monks knocking around 40 years later, because in 1599 one was fined for baptizing a baby in Elgin. So, ... a long interval. And then at the end of the 19th century, the 3rd Marquess of Bute, who was the 6th richest man in Europe, I mean, he was like a Sheikh of Arabi, you know, sort of think someone, the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia or something. Why? Because he owned coal mines, and more importantly, he owned Cardiff docks. Now, every ton of coal that went through Cardiff docks, he got his turn. And of course, your trains were all run on that, ships were all run on coal, industry was run on coal. So, and Welsh steam coal was what you wanted. That was fine. But then he became a Catholic. So all this money is sloshing around. What's he going to do? Well, he bought ruins like the Elgin and restored that. He bought this. He conserved it. He couldn't get monks for it at the time. He built lots of churches, and he would have done more if he had been allowed to. He died relatively early of kidney disease, and his nephew, I think it's Lord Colum Crichton Stewart, eventually gave this to the monks at Prinnage, who also have an interesting story, in 1943.
And they're Catholic monks?
They are. In 1948, 5 monks came back, and they've done an awful lot, because when they came back, none of the roofs you see now existed. And yes, so the church was an open ruin. That was a story lower, etc., etc.
77 years.
Yeah.
They've rebuilt it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing.
It looks like it's been rebuilt a while now.
Well, some of it has, yes. That roof was done in 1960. The transept's in 62. The tower in 54. The choir in 82. Round the side, you've got the men's guest house, 94. The new women's guest house has just been finished. The women's guest house down the road in 1990, etc., etc., etc. But the Caldy community was also interesting, because they started out in London in the Isle of Dogs in 1896. A chap called Benjamin Fernley Carlyle, and he was an Anglican. He thought, well, the Church of England without monks it's crippled. So you've got to have monks. So he started his community, and he was very hot on obedience. Often people that start these things up, they're self-starters, but they ignore everybody else, and they're rather independent and maverick. But he said, no, you've got to, if you're a monk, you've got to be obedient. So he wouldn't do anything.
Choose a rule or something.
Well, the rule St. Benedict, which is the great one. So every time he wanted something done, he would get permission. And his community eventually, after trying to find somewhere suitable, went to the Isle of Caldy, which again is an ancient monastic island off the south of Wales. And there they set themselves up and lived a very serious monastic life. In 1911, the first Vespers of the Assumption, they decided to wear all white habits. They wore partly black before that, in honour of Our Lady and the reforming traditions of, for example, the Camaldolese, which is another family of Benedictines that wear white. And then 2 years later, in 1913, they decided they needed some more priests. So they wrote to the Archbishop of Canterbury, being still Anglicans, and said, we want to have a couple of priests ordained. So he said, well, you know, you're a funny lot. You better have a visitation, somebody to check you out. So he got Bishop Gore of Oxford to come and, well, to inspect them. But he said, no, I'm too busy. So he sent two of his canons. And they did the visitation. And they said, well, you're a funny lot. You're using the Roman Missal, but you're Anglicans. You can't do that. You've got to use a Book of Common Prayer. You're keeping the Assumption. Well, that's not in the Book of Common Prayer. You have to forget that. The Immaculate Conception, no, you've got to give that up. And this exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, no, you can't do that. And the priests, well, they can't use the Roman Missal. They've got to use the Book of Common Prayer. Well, this completely threw them. Yeah, what are we going to do? These are very central things. So they prayed about it. And then they decided, well, the only thing we can do is become Catholics. So on the 5th of March 1913, with Blessed Columba Marmion there to help them, and Bishop Mostyn and so on, they became Catholics, apart from two.
2 years. That was
And
2 years of forming.
Well, no, less than that. And so off they went to Rome for the Abbots' Congress in 1914, and they went and saw Pius X, who was a very accessible and friendly Pope. You could just walk into his office. You didn't have to, you have an appointment next year. And he said to Columba Marmion, he said, right, this Grace has done this for them, so more or less throw the rule book away. If they need anything to help them to be Catholic monks, let them have it. Don't be difficult. And so that's what happened. But of course, having become Catholics, all their money was for Anglicans. So they were broke. They hadn't got any money. And it was the First World War, and they lived on an island, so submarines and stuff like that. It was very difficult for them. And eventually they moved to Prinage Abbey near Gloucester, and Trappist monks from Chimay came and took over Caldy, and they're there still. And the monks at Prinage, well, they made this foundation in 1948, and here we are. And now we have a little daughter house in Ghana, in West Africa, and that's now independent.
And so did those brothers from
Prinage
come to, did they move here?
They came here, yes, and it was rather rough. They didn't have electricity, they didn't have drainage, they didn't have mains water, they had holes in the roof, holes in the floor. It was kind of rough.
When they moved here?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they kind of camped?
They did. I mean, they literally camped in
ruins.
the ruins for a bit, yes. And eventually it was, well, a lot was done. They had to get to the stove. There was a hole down to the basement, and there was a plank. You had to walk across this plank to get to do the cooking.
And how many months were here?
5 to start with, yeah. And they're all in the cemetery now, yeah.
Thank you, Father, for sharing the history of the
No.
cathedral. It's absolutely beautiful, the monastery.
Yeah. And so there we are, living happily ever after.
And how many monks now?
I think it's 16. I don't know. I mean, there's no point in knowing the number because the number of boiled eggs you have for supper. Brother Paphnutius eats 3 and Brother Horsiasius won't eat any. So actually knowing the number doesn't help. But something like that, yeah. And we've just got our Father Simon, who is 45. He's now our prior. And so we've moved on to a new era. Before, when I came, it was Abbot Alfred. And then we elected, when he got past 75, we elected Abbot Hugh. Abbot Hugh is now Bishop of Aberdeen.
Hugh.
Yes. And then when he was made bishop, we elected Abbot Anselm. And now he's gone back to our little daughter house in the States. And he's living there. So on we go. Yeah, on we go.
Yeah.